Under the star. Anglican or Episcopalian, I can't remember, is racists. Staged. Well, hello, Big Dollop. My name's Margaret. Welcome to my channel. You are on BookTube. So what do I have for you today? I'm recording my March wrap-up, and a lot went on, so this might take a while. Grab your cup of tea. I've got mine. And my April TBR, or Pile of Possibilities, my pop. So let's jump into it. What happened in March? What did I do in March? Oh, before I get started, April, looking ahead, before you guys cut out, I have a Patreon book club, Taste Life Twice. Taste Life Twice, my publishing company. Anyway, I tried to wrap it all together. We're doing Love Medicine by Louise Erdrich for our book pick this month on April 18th, Sunday, and I'm very excited to read this because this is my first of hers. She's a queen. She's got like over 20 books. It's a whole world. And I just happened to read this because I was trying to like clutch at straws for Buzzwordathon in March. Didn't happen. It's fine. But I found that she had an essay in this, and I'm going to read just a little bit. I know this is going to be long, but I want to read just a little bit of it to tempt your taste buds. So I read a little in the live on Friday, but this is the part that immediately follows. This desire to deepen my alternate language puts me in an odd relationship to my first love, English. It is, after all, the language stuffed into my mother's ancestors' mouths. English is the reason she didn't speak her native language, and the reason I can barely limp along in mine. English is an all-devouring language that has moved across to North America, like the fabulous plagues of locusts that darkened the sky and devoured even the handles of rakes and hoes. Yet the omnivorous nature of a colonial language is a writer's gift. Raised in the English language, I partake of a mongrel feast. Ugh, just got good stuff. And so, if you've been on my channel before, you know that I'm a writer who loves to talk about attachment to place and relationship with place and feeling out of place and all those types of things. This like hit a hot button, so I'm very excited to get into Love Medicine on April 18th. Okay, back to March. What went on? This. So I had a bingo thing going. These were prompts to try to read a little bit out of your comfort zone, and I just sort of pulled them out of midair. I don't think I positioned them rather well, but it was fun to participate. I will be announcing the bingo winner after this video goes live, so it'll be in the next video or on a post on my blog. We'll see. Books in March. Okay, I'm going to go chronologically and be rather quick about some of them, otherwise I'm going to forget and get distracted. Before the Coffee Gets Cold, Kawaguchi. I listened to this on audio from Libro.fm. It was a DNF. I listened to the first story, there are 4, and was not pulled in. The last 20 minutes was the best, but it was like an hour and 40. So I thought, I'll give it another chance. It sounds so good. I listened to the second one, and it was the same kind of thing, and I'm like, I don't have 3 more hours for this, so that was a DNF. Unfortunate. Number 2, Invisible, Carter, paperback, used, backstory books. I give this one 3 out of 5 stars. It's a nonfiction about the black female lawyer who is a relative of the writer Stephen Carter, and her life story, basically how she became a lawyer and was involved with the plan to prosecute Lucky Luciano and was responsible for taking him down. There's a lot of interesting points, but he is a lawyer, Stephen Carter, and it's not like the narrative nonfictions that we're now so used to, and it just came across as this happened. But interesting history. Number 3, The Marrow of Tradition, Charles Chestnutt. Ta-da! So this one was a fictional account from 1901 of the 1898 Wilmington, North Carolina coup that racists staged. And highly readable, very action-packed, very good with setting. I'm going to be reading Wilmington's Lie soon, so I'm going to try to like remember and compare to see what was fictionalized and what was not. But this is a 4 out of 5 stars, paperback, backstory books. That was my first book in March of the Moderns. And my second was Precious Bane by Mary Webb. Marrow of Tradition I did not read with anyone else. I tried to get it in before I had any buddy reads. This was my first buddy read with Marissa and Tony, and we had a great live discussion. This is about a woman's life in Wales. And there's sort of a life told through the prism of a early 18th century disability outsider of society, but someone who's very familiar with it. And lots of interesting themes and characterization in that one. Very cool. And then I read Playboy of the Western World by J.M. Synge with Lana from Lana Ex Libris. This is a play. It's very short, but it's written by an Irish playwright, so we did it for the Irish Readathon as well as March of the Moderns. And it was a little opaque in the language because he took a lot of time to get the regional western counties of Ireland accent and register and dialect down. That slowed both of us down a bit. It was an interesting, it feels like a rock thrown through a window. It's like this middle class Protestant guy who is describing a world of which he is not a part, but which he is sort of romanticizing because of the nationalism sweeping Ireland at this point, because it's early 20th century, right before the 1916 rebellion, uprising. Part of a big theater movement, the Abbey Theatre in Dublin. Lots of fascinating things going on, including the riots that happened when this play was performed. But Lana and I were kind of like, but why though? So you can check out our live, which we did on St. Patrick's Day, because that was super fun. Next, we have High Wages by Dorothy Whipple. It's a Persephone book, so it's got the subtle gray cover. And this I buddy read with Katja Weinert, and we had a grand old time. This is set in the early 1930s in Britain, and Dorothy Whipple is both of our first Dorothy Whipple read, and we're both going to read more of her. It's about sort of a shop girl's life, so it talks about changing material conditions, changing technology, changing economic times. It starts in 1912, and there's 6 years, so I guess First World War. It's pretty cut and dried in terms of character. There are definitely baddies and goodies, and a couple interesting character interactions, which were fun to mine, and it's just very humorous, so this was 5 out of 5 stars. It's just a fun read, and also very good for discussion. I've got The Experience of Place, which I'll pop up here. It's by Tony Hiss. I had a hardcover. I gave it 3.5 stars. It was the book I was reading a little bit of each night before going to sleep, and that's because it's one I found decluttering at my parents', and, you know, it's 25 years old, 35 years old, and it talks about kind of like urban planning stuff, but also landscape, architecture, all mixed in terms of how to make livable cities and livable developments. And a lot of it was interesting and still applicable, but a lot of it was not. So good, but going to be passing it on. A Passage to India by Forster. I read this as an ebook, so I'll pop the cover on the screen, the cover of my choosing, and I give this 4 out of 5 stars. This I buddy read with Rainer of Rainier Books, and we had a really good discussion as well. I did a little research outside because this is one of the ones, like Brian at Bookish was saying, that you feel is like way up here, and you're kind of like, I know there's stuff in here, but I'm not sure how I'm supposed to think about it, or like the symbolism. You know it's supposed to like touch a nerve, but the nerve is humming, and you're not sure like what the judgment of the author or the narrator is. And so this was a really good discussion to have. Got us both thinking. After A Passage to India, we had I forgot to put it down. I did. Oh, that's silly. The next buddy read I have was The Enchanted April, which is by Elizabeth von Arnim. And this is, again, 1930s Britain. There's several of these in here. And it is a dreamy, fantastical, but also biting and satirical. Somehow they coexist. Story of women finding themselves and evening each other out in a perfect fairy tale setting in Italy and sort of figuring out their lives for one brief, glorious instant. That's how I would characterize it. But I would give this 3.75, 4 stars. I don't know if I'll reread it. I'll have to think about this one. We had a great discussion. I was buddy reading this with Synge at Beating Around the Books, Angie at Literary Labors. We had a lot of fun with this one, and we all definitely want to go to Italy now. And then the last buddy read that I had was Their Eyes Were Watching God, a classic that I finally picked up. You know, I was embarrassed to say I'd never read Zora Neale Hurston. Now that's not true, so yes. And when I did the little bookish bracket thing on Instagram that Brittany sent me, I ended up with this one as January, February, March. This is the quarter pick, or quarter finals, or whatever you call it in sport ball land. I don't know. Anyway, this is the one that I would say is the best read on the first 3 months of the year. So I don't normally do those sort of comparisons, but that forced me to, and as you can see, I liked a lot of it. The colors don't mean anything. It's just sort of, I'm reusing the ones and they as they come to hand. But it's beautifully written. One of the things, I read this with environmental historian Donna Sinclair, who's here in Washington State near me, in Portland, and one of the things that differed in our reading experiences is that she listened first and then read it, and I just read it because I have the paperback. And when I went through, it was difficult to read quickly. I'm a quick reader, but the dialect as it was written in the sort of Florida, southern U.S. dialect of the 1920s, 1930s, was definitely slowing me down. And I would have to not only hear it in my head, but basically sound it out like a toddler in my head, because it didn't look like words that I recognized. So I had to go from the audio understanding to the book understanding. And then there was the further layer of the idiomatic language. So I would have to think about, I don't know this idiom, I don't know this comparison, what could it possibly mean once I get the meaning of the word itself? So about half was dialogue that was like that, and so I would have to really concentrate on trying to figure out what the meaning was. And then it would go back to narration, and it was like laying a weight down. It was a respite, and that is sort of mirroring how the book goes from first to third person and floats back and forth, and there was a lot of stuff going on in this. So Donna and I talked on Wednesday last week, and it was so packed. We both had pages of notes that we wanted to discuss and couldn't get through it in an hour and 20 minutes. And so we want a series. If anyone wants a series of this, let me know. Yeah, Their Eyes Were Watching God, champion of the first quarter of 2021. Boom! Okay, let's see what else I got. I also started Few Eggs, No Oranges by Vera Hodgson, another Persephone book, but it's this big, so I'm just reading a little bit at a time. I listened to Joy at Work, another Marie Kondo book, on audio from Libro.fm, and I gave that 3 out of 5 stars. I am not in an office environment right now, so it had limited usability, and a lot of the stuff I'd already gleaned from other things, but the inspiration stuff was there, and I did appreciate the mission statement, the purpose of that approach. Oh, here's another first. So I read The Duchess War by Courtney Milan as an ebook from the library, and I'll pop up the cover, and it was fantastic. I gave it 5 out of 5 because it did exactly what it promised and did it very, very well. It's a romance. It's a smart heroine. It's a interesting tropes turned on their head, and this is the first Courtney Milan, and I definitely will be wanting more. So A+. We've got The Stolen Kingdom by Bethany Atazadeh. So she's the one I follow on AuthorTube, and this was a free first of the series because she's releasing the 4th and final book in the series, and so I took the chance to read some of her writing, and it is very, very fun. So she writes fantasy, and she does retellings of fairy tales, and so this was a retelling of Aladdin, and it with magic. And so there were lots of elements of this that I liked and appreciated. There's the humor, there was the romantic tropes, and like the mystery part and the quest, and there's a lot of great things in there, and she does a very good job of winding it all together. So the book that she just came out with is The Enchanted Crown, and I watched her book signing video, and she's just done an amazing job on documenting the process and sharing it with her audience on YouTube. So if anyone is an author who's looking how to do virtual book launches, she is your girl. Definitely check her out. I will link the channel in the description. And then I had 2 rereads, both graphic novels. The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up manga version, which is so cute, and The Trouble with Women by Fleming, which I have in little hardcover, and it just made me laugh. It's really funny. It talks about the women's sphere. It has these drawings of women like in a glass ball, and talks about ridiculous things in history that are funny but also sad, but in a funny way. And that is it for March. But before we get to April, here's your teaser. This is going up on Sunday, and for anyone interested, there's going to be takeaways from running your first readathon. And then next Friday, I'm going to go live as per usual, but discuss that post and take questions and answers and sort of get more into the details and whatnot. So if that is interesting to you, I'm up for discussion on that. April. So as I said, April's Patreon book club, Taste Life Tea-Wise, is going to have Louise Erdrich's Love Medicine, which I started off this video with a beautiful excerpt of a nonfiction essay from the author. This is a fictional novel, of course, but very excited. That's a guaranteed. The Woodlanders by Thomas Hardy I don't have a copy. I have an ebook from the library. That is going to be a buddy read with Tori of Hufflepuff Discovery and Jennifer Brooks. And that is because they are both obsessed with Hardy, and I think I've only read one thing by him way back in high school. So this is going to be a journey of rediscovery for me. We'll see. Then we come to books that I need to finish. This is a quick, almost finished. This is the Hilaire Bellock, The Cruise of the Nona, that I had on my list and was going to do for March because it's from 1925, but did not get to. It's a sailing memoir. Yeah, don't ask. Then I started Cod by Mark Kurlansky, that bookmarks and breadsticks. Anyway, Kim told me I should finish because it's really good, and he is good, but I picked it up and, had a bunch of other reads that I had committed to, so I put it back down, so I need to get back into that one. I was distracted in March, can you tell? So, again, The Lamplighter by Anthony O'Neill. This is like a creepy, supernatural Victorian mystery. It's very interesting, like the first 3 chapters. So I'm going to try dive back into that, but not read it at night. There's that to finish. Then we've got this one that I've been building up to, Those Who Save Us. Going to be a bit of a wrenching read, I think, but it's by Jenna Blum, one of my favorite people. So this is one of the cases where I know the author, which I put in a video months ago, and this jumped out at me from the bookstore shelf. So it was published several years ago, but I am just catching on to the Jenna train, so very excited to read this. Then I've got Conjure Woman, Afia Atakora. So maybe a hint of supernatural, but mostly historical. I've been waiting for this one for a year, so there's that to get to. Haven't started it yet. And then finally, this one, Brianna won't recognize, Theyre There. I finally got a copy several months ago, and it is finally on a TBR, so that is on this list. And I just saw that Well Read Native is doing this month for her book club, so maybe I'll like pitch in there and try to find some videos there. But I'm gonna read this because I have it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and some of them I've already started. That shouldn't be too hard. But then what else I have is the Buzzwordathon, which is something to do with space, is the prompt. I have several of these. I have many more, but these are the ones that popped out at me. And just because they're funny, because they run the gamut so much, I thought I'd show you which ones I need to choose between for the space prompt for Buzzwordathon. We've got Nancy Horan, Under the Wide and Starry Sky. So this is a historical fiction about Robert Louis Stevenson and his romantic entanglements near the end of his life, which I touched a little bit on in my research for my current novel. And so I thought this would be good research material, but I haven't gotten to it yet. Then I have Earth Calling, a climate change handbook for the 21st century, Ellen Gunter and Ted Carter. And I started reading this, actually, got a pretty good amount in, but it's I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to finish this, but I'll at least get a little more in before I decide. It has Earth in the title. I've got The Almost Moon by Alice Sebold. I haven't read her. She's the one who has the famous Lovely Bones, famous author of Lovely Bones, and this is her follow-up, I think. Moon. We've got Stars in Our Pockets, Getting Lost and Sometimes Found in the Digital Age by Howard Axelrod. It has stars, but it's about, like, digital technology and society. Ha! Didn't think that was coming, did you? And Mary Stewart, The Moon Spinners, another Moon book. And Mary Stewart, one of my favorites. A little dated, but dependable for great emotional growth and romantic relationships and discovery. So those are the possibilities for Buzzwordathon. Let me know if you vote for any of those and want to nudge me one way or the other. So that is April. Oh my god. What else is happening in April? Okay, we've got the book club, we've got the TBR, we've got the giveaway. Yes, I wanted to let everyone know, if you become a patron at any level, which currently I have $2, $5, and $8 a month, I'm entering people into a giveaway. And I'm going to send you book mail, and it's going to be like a book and a bookish thing, or 2 books, or a bookish thing, or, you know, just sort of like a small package, a grouping. I'm going to be putting 2 possibilities up, and you can choose whichever one if you're the winner, just so, you know, you lessen the possibility of getting something you completely don't want. And this is my way of being zero waste, because I want to let go of these things. I've been holding on to some of them for a long time because they were like treasures for my in-person events as an author, and since I don't know when I'm going to have those again, they're just taking up space in a box in my bedroom, and I'm done with that. So since I'm embarking on this adventure of Patreon and BookTube, this is how I'm going to, you know, spread the love around the community, giving books and my little bookish treasures, my hoard, away. And that is going to help me, and hopefully that'll brighten someone else's day as well. So that's the April giveaway, in case you were wondering. And that is my long-ass video. Thank you so much for watching till the end. Leave me comments. Tell me what you think about those books, or if you have differing opinions. And I'm going to get on out of here so that you can get on with your day. Thanks for watching. Bye. One more little piece. There is also this. Ojibwe-Moan is one of the few surviving languages that evolved to the present here in North America. The intelligence of this language is adapted as no other to the philosophy bound up in northern lands, lakes, rivers, forests, arid plains, to the animals and their particular habits, to the shades of meaning in the very placement of stones. As a North American writer, it is essential to me that I try to understand our human relationship to place in the deepest way possible, using my favorite tool, language.